Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fuente and Meerapfel present Meet the Professor. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
What's up? What's up?
What's up, guys?
Jeremiah, hi, everybody.
Now, today's a very special day because today we have a unique, one-in-a-kind guest of honor. Ladies and gentlemen, the single most handsome, available man in the world, one of the best cigar blenders there is, a man who has been fighting for the rights of the consumers and the industry alongside the crusaders of the industry, a gentleman which has his place on this show every single day, Mr. Rocky Patel.
Hi, everybody. Jeremiah, way too kind, way too kind. Thank you. Love your family, love the professor. Really, really excited to share this hour with all of you.
You know, Jeremiah, Rocky and I go way back. And a lot of people say, you defend Rocky a lot. I said, this is what you don't understand about Rocky. If there's been somebody who has put hours and days and months, wet, rain, hot, tornadoes, everything to do his business, has been Rocky. But more than that, the shit didn't go to his head. He went out there to support the industry, to go to every meeting in every state, to go to Congress, to go to the Senate, to be probably one or two people who have been on Fox and got nationwide and international, fighting for our rights. So I don't care if you like Rocky cigars or you don't like Rocky cigars or not. To me, that's not important. To me, what's important is that Rocky has been one of the most hardworking people fighting the FDA and fighting for the people that love this industry. So my hat, my respect to Rocky, to Nimish, to Nish, to all, always will support him and have all my love and big hugs from me. That's all I'm going to say about Rocky. No more.
I agree with you. And I'm going to do something I don't do very often for anybody in the world. I'm going to take my hat off to Mr. Rocky.
Oh, you guys are too sweet. You're gonna keep me on the show forever. Keep saying such nice things. Thank you. That's very, very sweet. Listen, we have such a beautiful industry. It's a cottage industry. It's an artisan industry. We're so proud of it, and it's all about protecting the heritage. And really, it was done out of fear. I didn't understand why Congress was behaving the way it was behaving. I didn't understand why we were being thrown under the bus and so heavily regulated to the point where it was going to turn into de facto prohibition. So literally went to Washington, D.C. to find out and protect us because it truly isn't fair. We are a luxury lifestyle business. We cater to adults. We don't have youth access issues. People smoke our cigars and enjoy them occasionally, just like they do a great bottle of wine or a single malt scotch. So it was simply to protect this artisan industry. And there are so many families with decades and generations that have worked and cultivated this fine art. I happen to be the newcomer in the business. So, proud of, I remember Carlito's father, he would always have the time, the Newmans, they would always have the time to come visit us when we had a little booth, pat us in the back, say, keep it up. You belong in the industry. We love you. And so it's been a great family adventure.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is why the cigar industry is so special. We got people, we got gentlemen, we got families, and everybody's united. And this is a great example, not only for us, but for all of you out there, that in the most difficult moments, in moments where people have challenges both throughout their lives, throughout their companies, throughout their personal circumstances, it is important to stay together. It is important to stay one. And united and together, we will get through everything. The Professor, what is today about?
Well, today we're going to talk about complexity, which in my opinion, when you're making a blend, is probably one of the hardest things to get. And like we said, we talked about, I've always said the 6 elements is flavor, strength, aroma, complexity, balance, and finish. Aroma, flavor, and strength, you can deal. Now, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's not as hard as getting the complexity. Because at the end of the day, if you have a cigar, it's the same flavor, the same strength, and the same notes, it just becomes a good, boring cigar. So to me, to get that complexity, I mean, I've been blending cigars since I was 16, 17 years old at my uncle's factory, but I didn't really, till I got to La Aurora and working for Grupo Leon Jimenez that I started to smoke really, some amazing cigars. And where I really knew how hard it really is to get that complexity. Because sometimes you got that flavor, you got the strength, you got the aroma, you have the balance, but the cigar is not complex. So, I mean, it's one of the topics that, we talked a lot about in our seminars and people ask me a lot. And I would like to hear Rocky's opinion on that because he's been working hard a lot of years, and I gotta be very honest about that. One of the persons that I've mooched the most amount of cigars is probably from Rocky.
Well, I mean, you always had a great palate, and you were the ones I remember early on the road when we meet. You always wanted to try whatever we launched to see whether it had the complexity, whether it had the aroma, whether it had the flavor, it had the finish, all those elements that you talk about. So I agree with you. I think when you're blending something, I like a diverse, complex taste. I like a lot of character. It's like cooking. The dish has to have a lot of character. And then with that, it's got to have balance. So, it's easy to get strength. It's easy to get just one-dimensional. But to get that multi-dimensional layer of flavor, whether it's cocoa, caramel, coffee with hints of white pepper and all those different elements that really makes that round, complex finish and flavor, that's really what we're looking for.
I agree 100%. And there's a story that I've told a million times. CAA in Tucson. Rocky comes to me up in the morning and gives me 2 bags of cigars. One had 3 cigars, one had also 3 cigars. One said 90, one said 92. He said, I want you to smoke these cigars. The last day we were going back from Tucson to Phoenix to do an event, and Rocky asked me, what do you think of this? I said, Rocky, I don't know what it is, but I can tell you this. At that time, the magazine was not rating cigars very high. And I said, the one that says 90 is good. It's probably get an 88 or an 89. But this one that says 92 is a 90-plus cigar. And that was the Rocky Patel 92, which in my opinion is probably one of the best cigars he's ever made. And I think that made Rocky just go to the next level, in my opinion.
That's great.
When we talk about complexity, we're looking at something which is very interesting because it's cross-border, not only to cigars, but I think to anything in the world. Melanie, how would you categorize complexity?
Well, I'm an amateur on this, but I just like them. I like the, I don't know, that's pretty much how I describe certain cigars that I really like, actually. Complexity, to me, it's like, it's still very smooth, so it still can be mild, but it's got, like he said, character. It's got, there's different things going on, but they seem to be harmonious and just all around. Makes it like just a great cigar. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's that's right. Complexity to me is like any fine things in life. It's almost some unattainable tier from God falling down, because at the end of the day, complexity is something that you can never reach to the perfection, but that every single person is striving to get to. And I think Rocky will agree with me, and I think Jose as well. Complexity is one of the things that anybody, whether you're growing tobacco, whether you're making cigars, is what you're striving for every single second of the way, through every single step. Because everything you do through the journey, whether it's preparing the soils for the agriculture, whether it's selecting the tobaccos, or whether it's creating your blends, the fermentation before that, the aging after that, but it's adding to the complexity of what you're actually going to experience. I think it's the same in winemaking, probably the same in gastronomy or anything else. And human relationships, I think, are based on the same thing. What do you think, Jose?
No, I agree. Look, listen, just go to cooking. I mean, there's
I was
when you're
just going to
cooking
say
and, you know what? I'm going to let Rocky, because a lot of people don't know this, but Rocky, if he were ever to leave the cigar business, could probably open a restaurant. And this is not because I've eaten his food, because I know people that know what fine cuisine is and have asked me, have you ever dined with Rocky? And I said, I haven't had the opportunity. He has invited me, but I'm going to let Rocky do this because a lot of people might not know it. Rocky Patel is not only does he knows tobacco and he's a great salesman, but he's a damn good cook too.
So
Thanks.
Rocky, your rating on this show throughout the first 10 minutes is through the roof. I think you're going to get a lot of messages from all the people out there asking if you're free tonight.
Well, you know, it's ironic because I was going to just mention to Jose, it's like if you go to any great chef, it takes one spoonful. I mean, that spoonful delivers so much flavor, so much character. You just go, wow. It's like you go to molecular cooking, you get that tiny, in that little tiny molecule that they make in the molecular cooking, one burst, one just bite of that, and it's like emulsion of 25, 30 different flavors, that perfect spoonful, like Thomas Keller or somebody. So ironically, I've been cooking like a madman for the last 7 days. I'm going stir crazy. I made penne alla vodka yesterday with some sausage. I made sausage and peppers. I made lamb chops. I made grouper. Then I made Alaskan king crab leg and some fried shrimp with ponzu sauce. I've been going to town just trying all kinds of stuff. Yesterday, I have an Indian tandoor, a clay oven, literally that from 35 years old that I shipped from India. I made some seekh kebab. I made some Persian kubile and juju kebab. I made some gourmet stuff. So I've been going to town. So come outside my house anytime, ring the doorbell. I'll have a great care package for you to take home.
All right, it's official. I'm moving to Naples, Florida.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned the, I'm sorry.
I was saying, what do you think about adding artificial complexity, like painting a Maduro cigars?
No, there's no such thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Jose.
No, there's no such thing as artificial complexity. The complexity, I mean, it's the characteristics, the notes, the regions of tobacco, where you get them from, because sometimes you say, well, I'm looking for spice. But where do you want spice from? Let's say you're in Nicaragua. Do you want the spice that, let's say that Jalapa has totally different from Esteli? Or let's say you're in Santiago, I mean, in Dominican Republic, if you want the spice from, let's say, from La Canela, or you want it from Jacagua, or you want it from Mao, or you want it from San Victor, or you want it from Jacagua, it's all different. And that's why we said on the program before that cooking and blending cigars is so similar. So I think that's why Rocky makes some good cigars. You know why? Because he's a great cook, so he's a pretty good blender too.
And they're telling you.
I mean, listen, seed varietal, I think seed varietal, country of origin, you can take the same seed. So Jose knows this, you can take a Sumatra seed. I mean, Jeremiah grows a lot of tobacco, Cameroon and Africa and stuff, but you can take the same seed from farm to farm, region to region, the tobacco will be completely different. And then you start playing around with the primings on the tobacco plant. So, you know, everything, the way somebody cures it, the way somebody ferments it, you can't make it exactly the same. And this is why we've been telling Congress and the FDA that this new regulation simply cannot apply to premium cigars because it was intended for the cigarette industry, because cigarette companies were manipulating the cigarettes, adding nicotine tar and changing it. So the FDA set up a standard to make sure that every cigarette was exactly the same. Well, you can't do that with premium cigars. They're intended to be different. We all intend to make our cigars completely unique and different than each other. And from roller to roller, buncher to buncher, they absolutely are completely different. And hence, it's impossible to monitor, test, and keep them the same. So this is the message we've been driving to the FDA. The FDA has spent so little time understanding the premium cigar industry. I liken it would be like sending a plumber to fix the rocket on the space shuttle. That's about how much knowledge they have about our industry. It's a unique industry, and it's supposed to be different.
How can they do something to help? Isn't there like a website that they can go and sign up and like civil or cigar rights?
Oh, yes. For all of you out there, please join Cigar Rights of America. The website is cigarrights.org. You know, all the family-owned companies are members of it. We work very, very hard with the Fuente family, the Ashton family, the Newman family, the Padron family, many other families that are involved in it. We're trying to save the industry. We're trying to fight for our rights to be able to smoke cigars, save from taxation, from unburdensome, burdensome regulation, overreaching regulation. So we're working closely right now with the White House. We have a bill pending in Congress. So we're cautiously optimistic that we'll get some relief and this industry will be protected for generations to come.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are witnessing why it is so important that you understand what all of these people, especially people like Rocky Patel, is doing for you, is doing for the industry, is doing for the retailers. It's important that you respect that. It's important that you show that respect and appreciation, because these are the guys with you that are going out on the fronts and making sure that all of us have an industry for ourselves and for our children along the line. We have a question coming in from Jose Brito. Hello, Jose, my friend. I hope you're well. This is a question that's come in for Rocky. Rocky, what is your go-to to cook and your preferred cigar and spirit to pair with that meal thereafter?
Boy, I mean, it's a different question, but you know, I certainly, one of my favorite dishes to cook is I marinate lamb chops in about 18 to 19 different herbs, spices. You know, it's a very complex dish. I marinate it in yogurt for 24 to 48 hours, and then I cook it in the clay oven. And my favorite drink with that would probably be I would say that it would have to be a bottle of Brunello, a 2010 Brunello from Italy, to pair with that with a homemade Caesar salad with Caesar dressing. That takes me, I've got this big African bowl, and I actually make the Caesar from scratch. It takes me about 45 minutes to an hour in this bowl. So that would be the ideal meal.
You know, there's something I want to say. It's incredible that Jeremiah, the other day we were talking about the same thing that Rocky was talking about, that the FDA does not understand, you know, the different tobaccos, the priming and all that. And that I've been talking about that for years. The same thing as Carlito, Rocky, Jeremiah, a lot of people in the industry. And to be honest, it's a shame that they do not understand that. And that Rocky's right on spot on that. I mean, he's been in Congress and in the Senate and, you know, Chief of Staff more than I have been. But I know he has preached that for, you know, again, Rocky, thanks a lot for what you do for our industry.
Let me just be clear about one thing. Mitch Zeller, who heads up the FDA, he's written several books, and he is on a warpath, and he wants to basically wipe out tobacco from the face of the planet. And he does not distinguish between cigarettes and premium cigars. And, you know, premium cigars make up 0.01% of all tobacco products, 0.01. And the FDA's own studies show that the average cigar smoker starts smoking at 27.5 years old. The average cigarette smoker starts at 13 years old. They show that, you know, if you smoke two cigars or less a day, there's zero health impact. All the science is on our side. Evidence is on our side. The federal judge, Judge Meda, just ruled in our favor to stop from having our boxes be covered with these ridiculous warning stickers, 40%. Imagine the beautiful stories that the Fuente family and the Padrones tell on their boxes. We talk about our vintage cigars. We talk about the different unique types of limited edition tobaccos and things we use. We would be barred from that, and we'd have to put these stickers that have information that is factually untrue. The judge says they don't cause cancer. You've never presented any evidence to the court to show that they're harmful for you. So why would you burden these companies from putting information on their boxes that is factually false and misleading, and also inhibits freedom of speech? So, you know, finally, we're getting some results in the courts. People are starting to understand our industry. I think the White House has put together a task force. They understand the burden on this industry and the undue and unfair overreaching regulations from the FDA.
Absolutely.
Indeed. Agree 100%.
We got some questions coming in, but we're going to keep our promise. We said that we'd bring some people right into the show. Let's see if we can get Pierre Gustafsson. Pierre, I don't know if you hear me. Let's see. Pierre Gustafsson. All right, bro. You're live. Ask your question. Pierre, can you hear us? No, I guess
he's from Sweden.
Yes.
Yeah, they're supposed to have good telecommunication over there. All right, let's move on. So, Pierre's question was, I thought that the complexity was that the cigar changes. Is that Pierre?
Yeah.
Hey, Pierre, how are you?
I'm fine. And yourself?
We're doing great. We hope that you're enjoying your time with us.
Okay, there was a question that I had to check off to go live.
All right.
Beautiful. So when you talked about complexity, you said that it had to do with the pepper from different regions. But I thought the complexity was that the cigar would change during the time you smoke it.
No. Look, complexity I'm going to repeat again. Complexity is one of the hardest things to get when you're making a blend. Because sometimes you make a blend and from start to finish, it's the same flavor, the same strength, the same notes. That could become a good boring cigar. Now, what is complexity? It's just the different changes that during the smoke, the tobacco start to change. You could pick up some spice, you could pick up some sweetness. People talk about sweetness, but what sweetness are you talking? Is the sweetness of a milk chocolate or is the bittersweet of a Godiva? How many times have you smoked a cigar, not during the whole smoke, and you pick up a note of like a dark espresso or a dark chocolate? Or you could pick up a white pepper or black pepper or red pepper. All that has to do if you're retrohale or not. But complexity is just the different changes that a cigar has. Now, that said, I could pick up in a cigar, let's say spicy and sweet, and maybe Rocky picks up earthy and spicy, and Jeremiah just picks up notes of cocoa with, let's say, whatever. I mean, Rocky, please give us your take to this on this too.
No, I agree. I mean, listen, there's a difference between when you smoke a cigar and the cigar changes from the first third to the second third to the finish. Complexity is the flavor profile you get in something you smoke or something that you taste. The way I look at it, it's got to have layers of different elements of flavor that make combine together into one package of flavor that makes it distinct and unique. And like Jose said, it makes a big, big difference if you retrohale the cigar, because your mouth has 15 senses of taste. Your nose has close to 52 or 53 different senses. That's why you remember when you were young and you had to drink some medicine, your mom would close her nose and feed you the medicine. Try this at home. If you close your nose and have a shot of vodka, a shot of scotch, and a shot of tequila, you can barely tell the difference. You're not going to taste the difference. That's why with good wines, the glassware is so important, because the nose has all the senses. And so when you actually have the smoke and you're retroing, you get much more character, much more flavor, much more definition of layers of taste through your nose than you do just smoking it through your mouth.
And this is why this show is so interesting. Pierre, I think that you had two answers which completed what you were asking for. On one hand, the professor is explaining how the change happens through the smoking experience. Rocky went into other details where there's levels of complexity, even when you're staying at the same moment in the smoke. And I think that together highlights how incredibly complex this complexity is. You not only have complexity in terms of the moment in time, but you're having those variations of complexity happening when the experience is actually moving forward during the degustation of the cigar. So I hope we answered your question, and stay tuned. We're going to go on to the next question now. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, Pierre. Thank you. All right. So our next question that comes in, this is a question coming in from Dimitri Kneiper. Dimitri, I hope you're well, my brother. I hope your family is safe. Dimitri is saying, Rocky, if you look at Canada and Europe with plain packaging, what are your ideas for the future, and how can we prevent that on cigars? How can we prevent it on cigars throughout Europe and the entire world? What's your thought on this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a very, very troublesome thing to see what's happening in Canada, in Australia, and probably in Europe soon, you know, with plain packaging. I think what's important with our products, I mean, if you look at a wine label, when I go to buy a wine, I look at the vintage, the year, I look at the grape profiles in that wine. I want to learn a little bit about the history of the winemaker. Those are all expressions we have on our boxes. You know, if you look at the Opus X box, I mean, it's probably one of the most stunning boxes in the world, but it expresses what the family heritage is all about. A lot of the Fuente boxes, the Padron boxes, they really tell you a story about where that tobacco came from, the hard work, the family sacrifices. That's all on the box, and we should be able to express that. And plain packaging takes that away. People are not going to smoke any lesser anymore because of plain packaging. What you have is you have a bunch of government officials that are naive, and they really don't understand, and they're applying all the standards that they imposed on cigarettes. Well, every Marlboro is exactly the same. It doesn't tell a story. It doesn't tell you anything different about the cigarette. So I understand that it applies to the cigarette world, but it certainly should not apply to our cottage artisan industry, which is so unique and is artisan. And that is that artisan product that we're trying to portray on these beautiful boxes and send a message about the type of cigars we make. Remember, by the time we plant a seedling in the ground, the time you get a cigar in a box takes 4 to 5 years. 300 different hands touch that tobacco. That's the passion, the labor of love that we're trying to express on our boxes. So we're trying to get this message. Hopefully when we win in these courts in America, that will go to Canada, that will go to Europe. You know, we're taking a lot of this scientific evidence we have, we're sharing it with some of our European partners. You know, Frederick is a great guy. You know, he's working closely in Belgium. I mean, that's where the government is based. Hopefully, slowly, this message will resonate in the rest of the world. But it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of education, and it's going to take a lot of us going down there, meeting with these officials, and explaining to them and showcasing that our products are very, very unique and different than all other tobacco products.
Absolutely.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. No, it's like putting ourselves in plain packaging. I don't think that's going to look too good, will it, Rocky?
No, not at all. It's a shame.
All right, we got a great question that came in from Alex Nowo, as his screen name calls him. Alex, I'm going to pull you into the show so you can ask your question.
He's from Canada.
Oh, awesome. Alex, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hey, bonjour, Alex.
Bonjour, comment ça va?
Nous allons bien. Et comment allez-vous au Canada?
Ça va bien, on survit.
All right, Alex, let's do this in English. What's your question?
Okay, so a lot of people talk about how the personal touch in cigar making is fermentation. A big part of it is fermentation. How much can you change a tobacco with fermentation, and how much of it is bitoon versus how much is it temperature and time, high temperature, low temperature, etc. Also, what's up to Jose, one of my mentors?
Listen, let me tell you something. And I think Rocky touched that point. We have touched it in the previous programs. Every company, every manufacturer, every master blender has his own recipe. Some companies grow our tobaccos, other companies buy their tobaccos. They receive it practically with a couple of months from the curing barn. They start to do their fermentation. And I can tell you that I've been in mostly every factory there is between Cuba, Dominican, Nicaragua, and I can tell you everybody has a different way of fermentating tobacco. With the temperature, with the heat, the height of the pilones or las trojas. Everybody has a different way to do it. But that said, one of the most important things is that tobacco, when it was planted and it went into the curing process, if the curing process was not done properly, it doesn't matter how good you are at fermenting tobacco and dealing with tobacco. So what you're buying, and we try to buy from people like in Rocky's case, in our case, we've been buying tobacco from the same people and growing tobacco ourselves, so we know what we're getting. But it's every company, I can guarantee you, that does it totally different. But at the same time, when you're fermenting tobacco, if you over ferment it, the essential oils are totally out of it, and it's like paper. But if you under ferment, also you get that nastiness and that ammonia that you get from tobaccos too. So, I mean, I think that Rocky and also Jeremiah can testify that we all do things in a totally different way.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's a combination of temperature, time, humidity, and pressure, right? So you have to take these combinations together. I mean, whether it's 2,500 pounds of weight on the pilon, the temperature that you seek, monitor it on a daily basis. This process can go on depending on how high the priming is on the tobacco plant. If it's a really high priming, like a 6th, 7th, 8th priming, it might be 3 to 4 years. A lower priming might be 2 years. So, you have to really get the right tobacco. You got to work at it. The tobacco really talks to you. You have to taste it. And what you're trying to do, basically, fermentation is the natural biological decomposition tobacco. All those rich nutrients that absorbed in the farm, the nitrogen, the boron, the potassium, the magnesium, to make that plant nice and strong. You want to bleed that fertilizer out over time, so you simply get the clean taste of the tobacco. And everybody has their own skill set, their own recipe, their own secret about how they go about it. And we also treat all the tobaccos differently, depending, again, on the priming, the growing region, the seed varietal, all that. So it's what you're looking for. If you're looking for something that's completely finished to give you that right nutty cocoa caramel flavor, if you want a little white pepper and spice to it, maybe you just don't push the fermentation to the extreme level. So these are all things that you learn over time. There is no class on it. You just have to spend time working with tobacco. Every day is a learning process. I'm still learning, and it's an ongoing education.
Yep. No,
and you said something important. The seed is so, and we talked a lot about it all these days on the seed. People ask us, yeah, the seed is important, but more important than anything, it's the soil, the pH, the nitrogens, the magnesium, everything into that during the fermentation process. And Rocky said it correctly. You cannot do to Cameroon or to Connecticut what you do to a Connecticut broadleaf or Pennsylvania broadleaf or a Rapiraca or a Mexican San Andres. And everybody has their own recipe.
It's important that, and this is for the viewers out there, it's important that you realize that when you're fermenting tobacco, it's very similar in a way. And we're going to compare it to two very simple things. Very simple to when you're cooking food, for example. There's going to be that equilibrium, that hot spot, right, Melanie? The hot spot?
Yeah.
What do you think? There's going to be that hot spot between getting the oils, getting the elasticity of the tobacco, getting what is necessary to make a beautiful cigar, just right with what's necessary in terms of taste. And that's often one of the big challenges for the agricultural side when you're going into the fermentation. How do you keep the tobacco? How do you cook the tobacco so that the taste is great without degrading the taste, without taking away from the taste, but at the same time, keeping the characteristics of shine, keeping the characteristics of color. And that's a really, really tough challenge. And I think Rocky illustrated that perfectly well, and Jose as well. So hopefully that's well understood now. And Alex, I hope we answered your question.
Yeah, can I just add one little thing?
Of course.
So your family grows Cameroon. Everybody here knows tobacco very well. Connecticut Shade and Cameroon thin tobaccos like that, do they go through kilning, or do they also go through fermentation in pilons?
Well, I can speak about Cameroon. I mean, the process starts very typically through the the drying process in the barns. Okay, there is already a modification of the leaf that happens. Once it comes out of there, we go directly into a pre-sorting system and then directly into the barns and into the what you call the pilons, so the masses. We want to get it in there as quickly as we can. Our family has our own little recipe, our own little secret. We've been working this stuff for 143 years, I think, this year.
Wow.
But everybody does it differently. Everybody has their own little thing going on, and I think that's important for you guys because it makes sure that you have the diversity and you have the differences of people fighting to do it their way, people fighting to get it to what they believe in. And I think that what's important for the consumers is that remains in existence, that you have families out there, such as the Fuente family, such as Rocky Patel and his family, such as the Meerapfel family, which do their thing. And that brings a certain diversity to the consumers, which in my opinion is essential to have a beautiful industry.
100%.
That's what we got to keep fighting for. What do you think, Rocky?
Yeah, I mean, listen, these leaves, particularly talking about African Cameroon and Connecticut shade, which is going in Connecticut River Valley, these leaves are very supple. They're very, very thin. You have to be very, very careful with them. You know, as soon as they come out of the curing barn, you have to add humidity back to the tobacco to make it supple so you can work with it, right? And it's the combination of the humidity, the time, the heat, and the pressure that starts the fermentation process. So with these leaves, you can't overwork these leaves. Being supple, being thin, you have to work them gently, carefully, slowly, and they don't require as much time as a broadleaf or a higher thriving Habano seed that you would use that probably would go through 3 or 4 years of fermentation. If you did that with the Connecticut shade or Cameroon, basically the leaf would disintegrate. So you have to be very, very sensitive, very careful, and work it slowly.
That's right. And you're, Alex, you're talking about two very, very interesting provenances. I mean, Connecticut Cameroon, Connecticut shade from the Connecticut Valley and Cameroon, the Meerapfel Cameroon wrapper are most probably the two most expensive wrappers on the planet. And unfortunately, if I'm not mistaken, the Connecticut is not even growing anymore now. These are very, very difficult tobaccos to harness. They're very fragile, like Rocky just said. These are very thin leaves. They're very precious. And they're incredibly, incredibly expensive for the manufacturers. I mean, talking about Cameroon, the yields on Cameroon are probably the lowest in the world, which makes Cameroon probably by far the most expensive tobacco in the world. So when you take all of this and you realize that the investment that manufacturers have to make to put those tobaccos on cigars for you guys, I think you realize the amount of investment and the amount of sacrifice that people are making to bring to you taste. And they don't have to do that. They can opt for many different things, such as a lot of the big corporations in this world who substitute taste for margin. But at the end of the day, there's still people out there that believe that taste and quality are the most important for the consumers. And this is what keeps our industry going and what keeps it alive and what makes it interesting. So I'm glad you recognize that. You're talking about two very interesting tobaccos. And I wish you luck. Stay safe. Stay home. Et tout l'amour, mon ami.
Hey, merci beaucoup, merci beaucoup. Thank you to everybody. Seriously. It's great to learn from the good guys like you.
Well,
All right.
You know, it's funny that, not funny, but, you know, Jeremiah and Rocky, you both hit it on the spot. I mean, we all know that the most two delicate wrappers is Cameroon and Connecticut. And it doesn't matter if it's Connecticut grown in Connecticut, the River Valley, which has gone down immensely. Majority of the companies that go into Connecticut from Ecuador, some Connecticut also grown in Nicaragua. but it's a rapper. Those both rappers are totally handled in a different way from Negro San Andres or Connecticut Broadleaf or a Havana. It doesn't matter. Those are the two most delicate rappers. And to be honest, that's one of those two rappers. That's when you really, the master blender and the people working on the floor in the factory have to be very close, because they're so delicate that if you don't do, you know, the bunching right and use the right binder on that, that cigar will explode. And I have seen that many times happen from XYZ company. And when I take the cigar apart, people say, what happened? I said, well, this was not the proper binder that should have gone into this. But that's the only thing I'm going to give out. If Rocky wants to elaborate more, I'll let Rocky do it.
No, I agree with you, Jose. It's amazing. Yeah, I've seen so many cigars with Connecticut shade in Cameroon, and then they light the cigar, and about a quarter inch into it, you see the cigar cracking. That's because you have to use the perfect binders and the perfect fillers with it, because if that cigar bit burns too hot, all of a sudden the cigar starts getting bigger and it just cracks the wrapper, because the wrapper is just so delicate, you know, so thin. But you can't ever replace the flavor of those two wrappers. I mean, the sweetness that you get from the African Cameroon is unparalleled out there, right? And the creaminess that you get from the Connecticut River Valley, because you can grow Connecticut in Honduras, in Nicaragua, in Ecuador, but it's still not the same as the Connecticut River Valley. It just is different.
I agree. I agree 100%.
Hey, if it's not Meerapfel, it's not Cameroon. All right, Rocky, we got a question coming in from Art Bowker. Art, my friend, it's nice to see you on the show today again. And he's asking you, can Rocky and other experts demonstrate the proper way to smoke, to taste the flavors? Rocky, you want to demonstrate?
Well, I mean, sure, you know, I retro my cigars. That's how I get my flavor. So basically, I take a couple small puffs, and then I'll take a larger puff, and I'll roll a little smoke out of my mouth, and then slowly the rest will kind of release through my nose. And this way, I'll get all the different layers, all that complexity, all that combination that we're talking about, complexity on the show, kind of like this.
Great.
Jeremiah?
And that gives me a complete flavor profile. So now I've got some smoke through my mouth, I've got some smoke through my nose, and I can taste every single layer in this cigar that was intended.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just saw the master himself show us how to smoke a cigar. Rocky, stay tuned, don't move. We are now moving on to Benoit's Baked. Benoit?
Yes. So today, it's a joke about the plane, about the crash plane. So you have 5 people in a plane, okay? You have the pilot, of course. You have Donald Trump. You have the Pope, Angela Merkel, and a young boy.
Oh, no.
So the plane get a problem. The pilots go out of his cabin and say to the people, okay, guys, we have a problem. The plane's going to be crashed. We have to take a parachute and jump out of the plane. So the pilot takes his parachute, go out of the plane. And then the 4 other people look the 3 parachutes. And then Donald Trump stand up and say, okay, guys, I am the smarter guy of the world. The people need me to make America great again. So I took the parachute. So he took the parachute and jumped out of the plane. And the Pope say, the Christians need me. I am the guide of the Christians. So he took the parachute and jumped out of the plane. Then Angela Merkel was looking the young kids and say, okay, boy, I had a good life. I don't care. Take the parachute. It's fine. You need it more than me. Then the young kids looking Angela Merkel and say, don't worry, madam. He stayed 2 parachutes more. The smarter guy of the world took my backpack for the skull. That's it.
Great.
So, thank you.
That's fantastic.
I hope that we can laugh about the President of United States, Jeremiah.
Listen, Benoit, you actually made me laugh today. This is bad.
I did it! Woohoo!
You did it! All right. We got a question coming in from, all right. We got the professor to shut up there. We got a question that just came in from Dimitri. This is a good question. All right. The professor, I hope you're listening.
Yes.
But turn your mic off. I know that cigarette companies have stock for 3 years to keep the obliged consistency. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not a cigarette expert, but I'll take your word for it. How is this on cigars? Do we keep stock for a certain amount of time to keep consistency? Rocky, you want to answer this?
Well, I mean, listen, we keep about 6 months of inventory in our warehouse, right? And it's not really done because of consistency. I mean, the tobacco changes from year to year because Mother Nature, weather changes. So the same seed varietal in the same region, depending on the amount of sunlight, the amount of rainfall, temperature, all that can change. So what we're doing as blenders is we know what blend we're making. So if I'm making a particular blend, I'll break it down on the plant and I'll say I'll take the 8th priming from particular farm in Esteli, Nicaragua, the 7th priming from particular farm, Jamastran, Honduras, 6th priming from particular farm in Costa Rica. This way, every year, every box, every blend, every single brand has the same leaf from the same plant with the same curing, with the same fermentation year to year. Now the tobacco changes because Mother Nature changes. So what we do is we might, instead of the 8th priming, I might use the 7th priming the next year, or the 6th priming, I might use the 5th priming. So there's no real science to it, but like a cook, like a chef, we're always working with the recipe, playing with it just a little bit, tweaking it to keep the taste profile exactly the same as possible. It's not a perfect science. You can't make it exactly the same, but you try to make it as close to the intended blend was supposed to be, the taste profile. You try to keep it as close as possible. And so you work with it over time as you keep getting the new tobaccos every year from the farm. You're always playing with it to keep that consistency as close as possible. That's what you do. I mean, you know, we try to keep a big stock of tobacco so you don't run out. Right now, there's a big problem getting broadleaf. Very difficult to get because they had a bad crop last couple of years, and now it's slowly starting to come back. But again, that tobacco will take 2-3 years of fermentation, and it's going to take 3-4 years before you can reintroduce that tobacco. So it's hard to keep a stock, but you keep playing with it and changing it to keep the intended flavor profile.
100%. That is very important. And in my opinion, I would think that the professor would have something to add to this.
Yes, you know, it's very interesting because Rocky made a good point, but also people have to understand that every year the crop is going to be different. For many years, I've said, if you ever see on CNN, Fox or NBC that some country had back-to-back the same crop, even if you don't believe in God, start praying because the world is coming to an end. So what happens is, let's say that you're using tobacco, let's say from 2016, and that year you had a lot of rain. The cigars are not going to have so much oomph to it, whether it's the Ligero, the Viso, or the Seco, whatever. So when, let's say you're using 2017, where you had a crop, what happens is the recipe is going to be the same. So in a Robusto that has 5 leaves, let's say you were using 1 year, let's say 1 leaf of Ligero, 1 leaf and a half of Viso, and 1.5 leaves of Seco. If the crop you're going to use in 2017 was better than 2016, the proportions of the Viso de Ligero are going to change. But you could do that because, like Rocky said, you're buying tobacco from the same people and you know the recipe and you have to play with it. And that's where you get the consistency year after year after year after that cigar. It's kind of, how would you say, it's really hard work because when you're running for 1 year out of the tobacco and you're putting in tobacco from another year, the first thing is you're going to start to smoke at pure grade. When you're smoking pure grade, let's say you take filler. You take the wrapper, the filler, and the binder, put it all in a little cigar. You smoke it. You smoke from the top of the bale, the middle of the bale, and the bottom of the bale. And then you go through all the bales of tobacco that you have. And you're going to say, okay, XYZ brand, we were doing it this way, this percentage, this percentage. We have to change the percentages a little bit, but the tobaccos will be the same and from the same region.
I mean, the best way I can compare this to, if you look at wine, right? The grape varietal, there's certain vintages that are better than other vintages because the grapes that year were much better, the climate was much better. Well, the same principle applies to tobacco also. So when you have a vintage where the tobacco is not as strong because you had too much rainfall, right? When you have more rainfall, the tobacco doesn't have that same character, doesn't have the same strength as it did when it was a dry year. So in that case, then now you're using heavier tobaccos in that same blend because the heavier tobaccos aren't as light as the tobaccos from the year before. So it's like a chef. You're always playing around, changing it depending on what kind of tobacco you get that year.
But is cigarettes completely made just completely different? Because I feel like I've talked to my healthcare provider yesterday, and he was like, "Oh, I don't mind you smoking a cigar." He's like, "But if you were smoking cigarettes," he's like, "Absolutely not." So he even already knew the difference, anyways. But he also just mentioned that cigarettes just have a different complete feeling. So I feel like if they're able to keep so much in stock, then I would assume that a lot of it is not real.
Now you know why Melanie looks so good and I look like shit, because she talks to her healthcare provider and I talk to my bottle of whiskey.
Well, I don't know. Not all healthcare providers are created equal.
Melanie, you want to go into the hot spot?
Yes. Oh my God, I'm freezing over here. Kidding. So what's going on? I was going to tell everybody today that we have a Facebook page available, so you can go and always find us and stay in tuned. It's called The Fuente Show, and that's all you have to put in there. So, and then you can also go to our YouTube channel and you can look up the Fuente and Meerapfel presents the professor. I get that old.
Yeah, make sure that everybody spells Meerapfel properly, because remember, I'm looking at you. I'm going to make sure you're going to type that in properly. Melanie will share the link.
I did. I put the link in the chat. I will put it in again, but if you need any help, you can always contact any one of us on Facebook or Instagram, and then we will definitely have up a website and Instagram and lots of new. Oh, yes. So if you share, we're going to have a giveaway on Friday. So make sure that you tune in on Friday, but also to get the giveaway details, you're going to have to tune in tomorrow. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Melanie. We have a very interesting question that just came in from a gentleman in the Netherlands. Mr. John, he says, hello to all. Can someone tell me what the original function is of the cigar band? How about you, Rocky?
Well, there's a number of stories that I've heard, right? And I don't know which one is accurate. But
and no, it's not the one where you wrap it around your private parts.
No. It's got nothing to do with that. So I heard whether it's Queen Anne or Queen Elizabeth, one of the old queens from England, she loves cigars. And she used to wear these very, very expensive silk gloves. And the silk gloves would always be stained with the stain of the tobacco. So they actually put a cigar band on the cigar so that it wouldn't stain her silk gloves and her expensive gloves. And that's where the story with the cigar band started. But I'm not sure how accurate that story is. I'm sure the professor probably knows the real story of why they put cigar bands on cigars.
To be honest, Rocky, believe it or not, the stories that I've heard have all originated in England, and I think it has to do with one of the queens there. So, I mean, I could start researching a little. I've read about it years ago. I didn't know the question was going to come up. I could do a follow-up on that. But whatever happened, I'm pretty sure it came out of England. All
right, guys. I'm going to make sure I found who posted that questions, because the first person who was able to nail the professor is going to get a prize. You just won a prize. Make sure you send me your name and your address. And guys, if you manage to nail the professor, you're getting a prize.
Definitely going to have to put that on our Facebook page so that they can all know.
All right. Well, we're slowly coming to the end of the show. It's important that everybody stays safe. Everybody loves each other, loves themselves, And at the end of the day, remember about this, like Carlito would always say, this is not about cigars. This is about people. So make sure we look after each other. Rocky.
Carlito!
Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun. Great to see my friends. I love you guys. I miss you, Professor. It's been a long time. Hopefully I get to share a cigar with you soon. Jeremy, I love you. Melanie, take care. Be safe, everyone. Take care of yourselves. In solitude, enjoy the fine things in life.
Thanks for joining, Rocky. We really
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Rocky, for coming onto the show today. You are an integral part of the industry. You are an essential part. All right, sorry, let's just mute the professor here. You are in such an important part of our industry, such an important part of our lives, such a good friend to all of our families. We love you. We thank you very much for having taken the time to join us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rocky Patel. Thank you, Rocky.
Equal love to you all. Stay safe. God be with you.
You be safe.
Stay safe.
All right, guys. Make sure you take care of yourselves. Make sure you take care of your families. Stay safe. Stay well. Stay home. We love you. And until tomorrow, same place, same time on Fuente and Meerapfel present The Professor. Goodbye.
Thank you, Rocky.
Love you guys. Be safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.